This is Donnie Tuttle, the Sell Anywhere trainer, coach, and practitioner. Welcome to the only podcast designed for the remote sales professional and the remote leader, helping you live with more joy, more freedom, and more productivity. We believe that your talent is not limited to your zip code, and that you can build the life that you want while selling from anywhere. Andria Schultz, welcome to the show. And before we get into what you do, Andria, tell us, what do you love?
Oh man, what do I love? Well, there's a lot of things that I love. Funny enough, aside from work and all of that stuff, my favorite thing in the whole entire world is actually dancing. Dancing is life, let me tell you, especially when everything is like stressful, especially more than ever now that we're in quarantine. I think it's important to kind of take a break and a breather. And so dancing is that for me. So
okay, what kind of dance are we talking here? Are we talking salsa? Do you break dance? Is it hip hop? What's going on?
Oh man, it's a mix. I mean, you can't go wrong with hip hop, or, you've got a little bit of your salsa or cumbia or any of that stuff. I think that's really important to kind of just let loose, especially more than ever when we're trying to be grounded and focused again. So for me, like whenever I'm just in a mood of like, ooh, yeah, I'm not really feeling it today, I really want to Netflix and chill, I've kind of just been, in that mode of like, all right, I'm going to put some music on and just like pump it out, So that's what I like to do.
Okay, so when we go through a little bit of your background, that might make sense, maybe in some realms at least, because true or false, Andria, when you were 8 years old, you proclaimed to the world that you were going to become the CEO of Disney, and that started an adventure of where you are today.
Oh yeah, no, I remember very, very clearly, actually. I can tell you a little backstory on that. So when I was a kid, I didn't have cable like most kids. So I was always curious, like what was beyond what was just being shown to me. And so, I had shows, thankfully, like America's Funniest Home Videos to watch. And I always remember kind of staring at the TV and being like, I don't know, I'm going to work on that show one day, but I didn't know for what reason, right? But then when my cousins and I would kind of just like, I'd sleep over at their house or whatnot, they would play Disney Channel on the television. And I started getting like really consumed with Disney, like when I would sneak over there and just like watch the show with them. And I also started saying, I'm going to work for Disney Channel, right? Eventually, though, I remember coming up to my mom and saying, I really want to work on television. And my mom's like, well, why don't you aspire to be something more? And I got curious and I said, well, what do you mean by aspire to be something more? So she did mention to me like the term CEO. So I remember, doing a little bit of research with my mom, and she explained it to me very thoroughly. And I was like, that's what I want to do, because I knew that it was beyond me just being seen at that time, but it was also, I always felt in my bones that I needed to inspire others. I just didn't know to what capacity. So at that age, I was just very certain that that was what I was going to go after, and no one was going to stop me.
I love it. And you've done things, right? Some of these things actually happened for you along the way. I can't wait to share how you and I met. I think that's kind of a fun part of this story as well. But like I find, Andria, when we are in pursuit of our purpose, it's like it wears different faces. Like it looks a little different along the way. And you've had many stops. You're not an old woman. You're very, very young, and yet you've had a lot of stops along the way, and it's all along the same plumb line. So share with us a little bit of your adventure into, I guess it sounds like the Forbidden Kingdom here.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me tell you, the entertainment industry is like a whole nother beast. That's for sure. So a lot of people don't really understand that you really have to acquire elephant skin getting into this industry. In other words, tough skin, right? So I was really fortunate, and I've always had this grounded in me where I was a very tenacious young lady. So at age 10, I remember I went to church one day, and my mom had pointed out this young, beautiful woman to me. And she goes, "Hey, that's the girl from Extreme Makeover Home Edition." So I'm sure you guys remember that show, but her name was Constance Ramos.
Yeah, move that
And
bus.
oh yeah, move that bus. Yeah, Ty, everybody. But I remember my mom pointed her out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go talk to her. So I just went up to her and I ripped a piece of paper, like from church, you know, the donation papers and all that stuff. And I handed it to her and I said, "Can I have your autograph?" And she said, "Yeah, of course." And so I found this as an opportune moment to, you know, really ask her for what I truly wanted. And while she was doing her signature, I remember looking at her and I said, "I want to be the next CEO. Will you be my mentor?" CEO of Disney. And she kind of just looked at me and laughed. And she was like, "Okay, honey, you're like 10 years old. Like, come back to me when you're really serious." Um, so I took her very seriously. I got the book that she recommended me to get. I went and actually created a list of people that I wanted to emulate. I created a plan of how I was going to become the CEO of Disney. And I remember showing her again at age 12 what it was that I was going to go after. And that was when she was like, "Okay, you're ready. Like, let me take you under my wing." And that's when she talked to me about that elephant skin that I had mentioned before. Because being a woman in the industry, there at that time, there weren't, you know, movements like the Me Too movement that a lot of people know about today. And so she was preparing me for, you know, those specific things, as well as a lot of betrayal, a lot of hardship, you know, climbing the ladder, as well as consequences if I were to become the CEO of Disney, and just laying out everything in plain sight for me to see what my options were. And something that I really value about that mentor really was the fact that she challenged me to think outside the box, and she didn't lay it out easy. And I think that's something that's really important when we are trying to find a mentor, is that.
Love it. I love it. And I think it's fair to maybe introduce a little bit of the story of how you and I met. My 12-year-old son, Ephraim, was we were talking about just some of his life goals. And as he loves art, loves comics, he takes after me. I used to draw myself in comics whenever I was like in high school. Well, he's already surpassed my ability at the age of 12. And I began reaching out saying, you know, let me see if I can put my sales prospecting prowess to work for someone I love the most. And we did, and through a mutual friend, Dale Dupree, who knew someone else, connected me with you, and you were able to connect us with someone. And really, it's a beautiful thing. It's almost it's the process that you described when you were 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the mirror image of what I saw happening with my son, and he has been aglow just from the input that happened there. But I know that you're not doing that just because, right? There's something
Right.
to believe about not only receiving mentorship but giving mentorship. And like, why mentorship? Why is that a big deal to you?
Honestly, if it wasn't for the mentors that I had in my life, and I mean, I have more than one, and I've always said this since I was young, that we need 3 different types of mentors. We need spiritual, mental, and physical mentors. And the thing, in order to be successful in life, and it doesn't matter how many you have in each category, so long as you have all 3. And something that really got me excited about your son is the fact that he showed, you know, little instances of myself in him. I saw myself in your son, which was something that like really sparked me. It was his excitement. It was the way that he put himself out there. He was tenacious. And on top of that, like, he's talented. Like, your kid is so talented. And I'm just so grateful to, just put that onto him, like, where I know that the capabilities that he has, he can still create more momentum within his life. And I think that's important because just that little belief in somebody can change their life entirely. And I think that happened to me so many times, where one person believed in me, and then another person believed in me, and then another one. And because of those instances in my life, I'm where I'm at today because of them.
What's up, you wandering slayer of sales? Hey, listen, if you know anything about me, you know that I am a teacher and I believe in sharing experience, right? That's what this whole podcast is about. Well, I've actually taken all of the best stuff from the people I've interviewed on this podcast and other places, and all of the people I've coached around the world, and my own experience. Listen, 2.5 years of bumping my head and doing it wrong finally gave me a formula that helped me to be able to not only go out there and crush my schedule when my office was only a 10 feet commute, but also to be more effective than anyone else that's out there. Listen, if you can sell anywhere, you can sell everywhere. And so this is a course for a mastery of those who are without an office or those who are aspiring to be without an office. So go ahead and go over to donnietuttle.com right now, and you're going to see right there in the header there, you're going to see some information about the new Sell Anywhere course. And guess what? You get the first one for free. So go check it out right now, donnietuttle.com. And now back to the show. I love that. And one of the things, Andria, as you were talking, I just wanted to dig in a little bit. Obviously, that's the same reason I do this podcast, right? That's the same reason that, like, we give out. It's almost, and tell me if you agree with this or not. It's almost like when we are looking to serve this world with the gifts and talents that are in us, that when we do that, we're looking for, and a lot of times it ends up being someone who reminds us of ourselves. We're looking for people who will respond. We're looking for people who will value this. And when we see that spark of ourselves, like, that ignites us to the call into action there. And that's what I'm hearing you say there. Like, I don't know what.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And I think that one other part of that too is that, there's so many kids out there that don't know how to go about communicating the things that they really truly want to achieve. And I really hope to change and shift that mentality for the younger generation, because even parents need to understand that they need to be involved in their children's lives and the things that they're also wanting to create. Because I had a very supportive family as well. And, if it wasn't for my mom and my dad, supporting my dreams and not making fun of them or thinking that, oh, that was a bad idea, I think I would be a much different person than I am today. But I know also deep down inside, the person that I am is, if somebody tells me I can't do it, I absolutely will go and make it happen. I'll find every means possible to make it happen. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
And stay with me here for a minute, because I feel like there's such a momentum. And the reason why we're talking is because you and I, we spoke just through that connection, and I'm like, this is my people, right? You find your people. And it's almost like you throw up the bat signal, and it's not like Batman comes. It's like all the bat people come. It's like, we're constantly throwing up our signal, and we're saying, who is in this tribe? Who is going to give momentum? Who believes this? Who is going to get behind this? And I know that, like, I guess where I'm going with that is, like, there's another piece that you are a master at. And I want to dig into and ask you the why and the how, or maybe how we get it wrong, but that's with networking. That's like, we're like the people who are like we think we can do it ourselves. I don't know, like where are we getting it wrong? And what have you seen? Give me your world of networking.
Oh gosh. Okay. So this is my favorite subject to talk about. And I do this a lot with my students as well. And to be honest, one of the things that I have seen as a networker and a connector is a lot of people will go to these networking events. All right. I'm not saying that they're all bad. I think that if you go with purpose and intention of who you're really trying to connect with, that is so important, because a lot of people will just go there to talk about themselves. And it becomes this frenzy of, well, I'm going to talk about this because this person can give me this. And that is the wrong mentality when it comes to networking, because it's not about you by the end of the day.
Mm.
It's not. It's about how much added value can you bring into somebody's life. And there's a lot of technique to that. It's not just, I'm going to show up, I have this intention of talking to this person and I'm going to give them added value. It's way beyond that. It's the way that we articulate. It's the way that we continue that relationship. It's the way that we we know our intrinsic values. It's the things that help us understand what our story is. How do we fit into that puzzle piece? Kind of similar to what you were talking about, like finding that trigger and that spark within our younger inner child, right? And being able to connect on a wholehearted level, but also understanding what you're an advocate for, what your morals and values are, and if that person is in alignment with you.
Okay,
And so these are
this is
all the
good.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all the things I talk about with my clients and students, because there's a huge lack of understanding there. And there's a lot of universities right now, believe it or not, when you get out of college, the number one problem is that nobody knows how to network. I have had, you will not believe how many college students I have talked to at universities when I go and keynote speak, where I say, hey, how many of you guys have been learning networking? No one raises their hand. So the university is giving you all these tools, but they're not really teaching you how to apply those tools, nor are they giving you any tools to actually get you out there appropriately, but they're just saying connect with anybody and everybody, and that's not going to be beneficial for anyone.
So no, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've talked to trained professionals who supposedly do this for a living, and they don't know how to network. And if I were to reflect something back to you, like there's such a need. I think networking is the way that we take something and we make it, like the process of getting to know a new person,
Mm-hmm.
finding a place of value, gaining, pursuing them, gaining commitment, all of the things that are involved in the sales process. Most people that are out there do it the hard way. So we start from cold but really when we look at something like networking, doesn't this add really like a turbo boost to that process? You think most of us are doing it, we're lifting 100 pounds when we could just be lifting 2? Do you think we're doing it the hard way?
Yes, we are. And the thing is that, like, I tell my students this all the time. This is why I put both branding and networking in the same category, because all creatives need to understand their brands so they can network more strategically in their selected industry. Because if you don't understand who you are, how are you going to be able to know who to connect with? Right? So like those are things that a lot of the times people get done incorrectly, because they're so focused on what's next versus, wait, where am I at currently?
Okay. So what you're telling me, and I love this, I can't tell you how many parallels there are between some of the things that I share with people. But what you're saying is when you walk into a situation, rather than you knowing your script, it's more important for you to know who you are.
Yes.
And okay, so it's about knowing the person that is you, equally as much as connecting with these people. And it's that seems counterintuitive.
So let me give you a really great example here. So for example, A car salesman, and which, by the way, I used to be a car saleswoman at Mercedes-Benz a long time ago. I'll tell you that story another time. But basically, if you're a car salesman, right? If you don't believe in the product, the car, right? Are you going to be able to sell the car? Probably not, right? So
Oh, no.
let's kind of reverse engineer this for a second. So if we are the car, the product, right, and we don't believe in ourselves enough to sell the product, it's not going to help us really display all of our morals and values and the things that we advocate for to actually connect with the right people. So it's really important as a person to know that you are the product, and the product should just be able to sell itself. You shouldn't have to talk about it. People should just be able to see that. When you're networking with them, you shouldn't have to say one word.
I love
They
it.
should be able to know what type of person you are.
Yes. Okay, so I know who I am. So let's just say I was in the Andrias Schultz. Is it Network Smart? Is that the name of your course?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So let's just say I was in your course. I'm a one-on-one student, and I've got that down. I know.
Yeah.
What else do I need to know in order to make sure that I'm doing this thing right? Because even with good intentions, we can show up and miss opportunities or misrepresent. What's next after I know myself?
The next step for that would absolutely be really understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So most of the time, a lot of my students will come in. This has actually happened so many times where I'll say, okay, so what do you do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we may know ourselves morally, ethically, spiritually, like all of those things, right? That's great. Now the question is, do you know what you're really trying to go after? I've had students come up to me and say, oh, I really want to be an actress. And then seconds later it's, oh, but you know what? I really want to be a director. Oh, and actually a producer too. And maybe even a chef. Right? So what happens is you're all over the place. So when that happens, what a lot of people fail to realize that not every single person that you're networking with is going to want to talk about all of the things that you are passionate about, nor do they even care about that, because that's not what they're going after. So something that my mentor taught me, and I say this to everybody, so Keith Richmond from Disney Channel, actually, he sat me down, and he actually produced Full House as well. He sat me down and he said, Andria, I know you want to be the next CEO of Disney, but right now you're going after production. So what type of producer do you want to be? And I looked at him and I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, there's executive producer, coordinating producer, all these different types of producers. He just started listing them all down. And I just looked at him and I was like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot. I don't know. And he goes, well, I'm going to tell you something. If you do not proclaim who you are and who you want to become, no one in this industry will take you seriously.
Say that again.
If you do not proclaim who you are, no one in this industry will take you seriously.
It's interesting, like what you just now said. When you meet a stranger, what's normally the first or second question that comes out of their mouth, other than what's your name?
What do you do?
What do you do? And it's interesting that most of us will go, oh, I'm a real estate investor, or like whatever. We create whatever, like some simple word for that. And the interesting, that's why I started out with what do you love instead of what do you do. But the interesting thing about that is this word profession. And profession really just means it's what you say. But for me, like there's an occupation, like where you're occupied. And there's a profession, meaning this is what, if you squeeze me, this is what comes out of my pores. This is what I say. This is what I profess. And there's a difference. And so what you're saying is being in alignment with what you want and what you're doing gives direction, but also helps others to know how to relate to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit it right on the spot. It's relatability, 100%. Another thing too that happens in a lot of industries, it's not just the entertainment industry, I'm sure, but titles are everything. And unfortunately, that's a thing where sometimes, somebody will judge you based off of your title, right? And it's something that I really want to change is that perspective, because it's beyond the title. It's what can you actually bring to the table that is going to bring added value to whatever it is that you're really trying to go after, whatever that person's really trying to achieve, right? So the thing that I really want to emphasize is that I have never gone in a conversation caring about someone's title. I see beyond that. So if I can see that person for who they are and like what they do, that helps me navigate whether or not this person's going to be somebody worth even, my time, or even if they, see me as worth their time. Because it goes both ways. It's not just a one-way street.
So, okay. So bring me here. I think, Andria, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of people show up at these things. And I think you mentioned this earlier where they show up and it's about them. They're going to throw their script at you, which would be almost like an actor throwing just like saying his lines at inappropriate times, right? Or his monologue or whatever. And so I see a lot of people who are selfish and probably it's driven by fear and
exactly.
Fear of rejection. But what else are we doing wrong when it comes to connecting? Like what should we be thinking when you said we need to see and know what we want to, what our goals and objectives are? What should that be? Maybe it's different for everyone, but
it usually is different for everybody because every single person has a way that they articulate or the way that they communicate or the way that they receive a message. Right? So when I work with my clients, what I normally do is we're very focused on who specifically we're talking to. And remember how I was giving you that example of the student that says, I want to be an actress. I also want to be a director, that
right.
example. Okay. So we all wear different types of hats. We all have different types of passions, or we have different types of skill sets. Right. And so sometimes we ourselves have to understand when to pull those skill sets or passions out of our hat at the appropriate times, because unfortunately, right, people can only take so much information. And also when you are talking to somebody, you have, for the very first time, you only have 8 seconds to grab somebody's attention.
So you're saying they need a place to categorize you quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to be really smart and diligent and do your homework, which is the biggest thing.
How much of this, though, Andria, is that we go in trying to take instead of give?
That's something that I love to talk about, because most of the time it's not just about taking from that person, but it's really about listening. It's about listening. It's not even about giving or taking. It's about listening and just being present in that moment. Because a lot of the times we're, again, right, as humans, it's a give or take type of mentality. And sometimes it's just really hard to just be in that moment. It's almost like meditation, right?
So no one else in the room matters. It's the person in front of me.
Person in front of you.
And then, but you have to ask questions, I'm assuming, that would matter, that actually give you, I remember Oprah said, and I can't remember the exact quote, but she said she interviewed 1,000, 10,000, however many people. And she said, everyone without exception wanted validation. Is it that? And what kind of questions actually create that?
Yeah. So really it's about when you're listening, you're taking in what the person's really truly wanting to receive back. So when you're listening to them speak to you in a way that is very open, and you're navigating what the right questions would be, that's going to give you a leg up. versus somebody that is just there to talk about themselves or reverse engineer, like, or reverse the role, right? Of where that person's just wanting to find out what you do to see how they can be benefited by what their goals are. You're really just trying to just focus on them. And that'll help you navigate, like, okay, what else do I want to know about this person? It's not so much about my agenda, but it's beyond that.
And for the listeners, now I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause for just a minute. And now I'm going to change the environment. Even though the environment of a networking, there are people all around, and maybe that's what you've been picturing. But now we turn that into a boardroom. Or
Right.
now we turn that into a sales presentation. Or now we turn that into a mom or a dad in front of their 8 children like we have. Or now like it's all of these different scenarios that Andria, if we can give value and validation and understanding of where that person is at and where they're trying to get to, doesn't that always, I think Zig Ziglar said, you can have what you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. Isn't that, I don't want to say gaining through serving, but isn't that what it's all about?
I think that there comes a point because, for example, a lot of the times I definitely never ask for anything in return. That's not something that I do. Now, if the opportunity, because most of my mentors, right, when I was growing up, something that I really valued the most is that they didn't just hand me the opportunity. I had to earn that opportunity. And so I see all of my networking as that, because if I can earn it, then I deserve it. So that's something that's really important, is that, like, because there is that mentality still of like, well, I did all this, I should be receiving this from this person. You're still going with the intention of it being yourself.
Wrong heart, yeah.
Right? In the long haul. So, like, again, it has to go back to what is your true intention? Right. Because if that's not there, where it's clear that there is, no motive behind it, so many more opportunities come your way when you're in that mode versus the one where you're like, oh, I did all of this and that's how it resulted. That sucks. You know what I mean? So that's really what I do, is I give a lot of my clients the tools and the right the way to articulate yourself correctly, so you aren't coming across in those in that light. That's really important.
Okay, all right. And so now I do want to actually ask you about that, and I'm just, forgive me for staying in the same place for so long, but
no,
there is such, for me, I feel like it's more important for someone to know their persona than it is to know their lines. But then once you know your persona, then you should know the lines that go along with that. And so what you're saying is you custom fit the, like, hey, here's what you can say. Here's some techniques that you can say that are going to match you, and it's going to match what you're hoping for. And this is going to sound genuine, and it's not going to come off sounding weird or feeling weird because it matches you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly how I work. Yes. Because everybody's way of articulation is so different all across the board. Right. So, and you're working with different walks of life. So it can be really difficult in that walk of life to really understand how to appropriately approach, maintain, and then create beyond that. And so that's what I walk through with my clients, is really all of those 3 steps. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So, and we'll turn the page after this one from networking. It's just such a strong place to be at, though. And I think, especially coming out of this, people better be good networkers. But yeah. All right. So imagine, you know a little bit about my persona, maybe from talking with me, but imagine now, and you've got 60 seconds. I'm about to walk into a networking event, and you've got to change my life in 60 seconds. Like, what is the one thing that I can do to build rapport? And like, what's the one thing that you tell me to quickly build the rapport and the connection with people as I see you just before I enter into the convention center?
Make me laugh. That's like the biggest thing. I think everybody comes in a little bit too serious, right? When they're going to a lot of these events. So I'll give you a great example, okay? So like one of my students, I asked him, so what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm just the cinematographer that wants to work for Animal Planet and National Geographic, right? And I look at him, oh my gosh, you just lost me. You lost me, man. I like literally don't even want to sit down and like find out more about that. So I was like, pretend that that you're me for a second. Ask me, what do I do? And he goes, okay, what do you do? And I said, well, I just make animals in houses look sexy. Right. Right. So he looks at me and he's like, wait, what? Tell me more. Right. Yeah. So if you can get somebody to really like just sit down and like focus on you for a second, or like vice versa, right? You always bring back the conversation to them. You say, yeah, you know what? I'll tell you about that later. What I really want to know is about you.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a switch of the role type thing, but it's little exercises like that
you've got to pattern
really help you prepare.
Yeah,
exactly.
People are seeing and talking to 100,000 people. I always liked, and maybe you've seen this one, but I if someone asked me for a card, I would always carry a deck of playing cards. I would yes. Like an ace of spades, and then anyway. So yeah, that's fun. I could go on talking about this forever. Now, I'm looking at the image of you, and unless you've had like a lot of work done, you're not a very old person. Can you reveal to us your age, or is that something we don't talk about?
Yeah, I'm actually 28.
28, and you've had a world of experience, and obviously, right, you started at a very young age doing that most of us don't. And so at 28, you know a thing or two about cross-generational communication. And I know that you're big on helping millennials and Gen Xers and baby boomers, like all, I don't want to say have a Google Translate, but
I guess you could put it in layman terms.
Bring them onto the same page. Like, can you talk to me about like, what is it that you're seeing there? What are the things you're dealing with, and what are the answers you feel like that there are in that world?
There's a huge disconnect between all generations. And what I mean by that is that we all don't want to understand each other, nor is there room for making time to just get to know each other either. Because I am sure you guys have seen this. I mean, it's happened for years, where one generation will complain about another generation because of something that they've done, right? So that's never going to end. But really something that I want to focus on is with the millennial generation, and something that I see even with my clients that are in the millennial range. A lot of them are impatient, and they want to already make it. They don't understand why they aren't there yet, or quote unquote aren't successful yet. And a lot of that, I would have to say, is due to, of course, social media to some extent, because there are so many, platforms that are giving opportunities to people. But it's also this factor of, I want to be famous, versus I want to make impact. So there's a huge disconnect there in understanding what the differences are between the two. And then you have the X generation and the baby boomers, and I'm not saying all, but many of them have said that it's been very difficult to work with the millennial generation in some way, shape, or form, because a lot of them bounce from job to job, because they're not really wanting to stay in one job. And I think the thing is that if we were to, create and fix that gap of like, okay, let me as a millennial learn how to earn my respect, earn the place and the right to actually be this person that I want to become. If you're actually like humbling yourself a little bit, because even through my journey as well, like, again, remember when I said that I was never just handed the opportunity, but rather I wanted to prove myself that I could actually do something about it and actually find another means or way of creating that and making it into a possibility. If we can shift the mentalities of how mentors or even the older generation talk to us and communicate to us about that, versus just saying, hey, go and just do this, a lot of the kids in my generation would be a little bit more humble and actually like want to listen. So really what I'm trying to do is just bridge those gaps. So my students and my clients in that realm come very well equipped and prepared to know that that's what they should be doing in order to navigate their way appropriately in their industries.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Yeah, it's so important. And I think being able to see beyond labels, right?
Right.
Obviously look at the tendencies and be able to adjust to those. But there's such a richness in each of the generations, one for another, that it's almost like they complete each other, right?
They do, yeah.
So, all right, so you have been dropped into this giant networking party here, and we have executives who are purpose driven, who are maybe hanging out over by the punch bowl. We have these sales people who are selling from anywhere, and they're like, you're in both of my podcasts, and so here we are, and all of these people are around, and you are now introducing yourself to these people. I know I can't get off the networking thing. I'm sorry, but here you are. And it's Andria Schultz, who is the guru and master momentum builder over at Network Smart. How do you introduce yourself?
Really, it's all about me just saying that I help creatives understand their brands so they can network strategically in their selected industries. One of the biggest things that I want to make sure that people take away from this is that they are actually truly connecting and making connections that can be lasted for a lifetime. That's ultimately all I would say. I don't think there's more to that I have to say, because I think it's very cut and clear, like that my intentions with everything that I try to do is way beyond myself. I really care about people a lot. I think that's something that I really thank my mom and dad for instilling in me, is being able to just, really understand that, everyone has a dream and everybody has potential. And I think that's something that is lacking in schools is, and also just in general, like a lot of people are afraid of even just stepping out of their comfort zone, like creating that opportunity for themselves, because that's all they knew, was to do it that way. And I think if I can help people see that there are alternative ways to creating an opportunity that's without fear of rejection, that's really ultimately my goal.
Yeah, I want to give you a chance to drive that one home in a minute, but I believe that I don't like. I think when we're looking at our creativity, right, and being creators, I think that's a lot more. That has to be a lot more customized. I don't think that can come out of a box and 1,000 people are going to do it exactly the same way. And I think that's right. The approach that you have with your people, I have with my people. And the reality is that, and I guess where I want to go, or tee you up on, is Andria, I believe that we are all creators, right? Our creator made us to be creators. All of us have something valuable to offer the world. And so many people are closed off to that. They don't see themselves as creators. They see that they've really kind of just jumped in line and they've become consumers. And so 100%. I'm going to hand you the microphone and I'm going to ask you to wake up those people to see what they were made to create. And then after you do that, Andria, I'm going to ask you to just share with us a little bit about how we can get in touch with you, a little bit about Network Smart, and how we can get engaged with you on a deeper level.
Absolutely. So something that really resonated with me, and it took me, a couple years to figure this out, but something that I realize is a lot of the times as a creative, it gets squashed as we get older. And something that I really want to encourage every single one of you guys that's listening to this podcast is that be true to yourself, because God shows us our future through our past experiences. We just have to be willing to listen. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned. And I learned that at 23, when I actually was fearing the unknown. I had just finished working at Disney Channel, and I lost everything at that point. And I remember just finding myself and wanting to go into isolation. And when I did do that, and I traveled up to Canada, and I went to really listen to my inner spirit, that was when God really spoke to me and gave me the wisdom that I needed in order to continue on the journey and the path that I am currently on today. I asked myself something really important, and I'll share it with you guys. What is the number one question that you've been asked consistently from people throughout your life? And it sounds like a very simple question, but it's one of the most complex questions that you can ask yourself. And for me, what I realized was that a lot of people were asking me, how did you connect with the people that you're connected with today? Or how did you get into the entertainment industry? Those were consistent all the time. And I realized at that moment that I had my entire life been helping a lot of my friends and family members to figure out what their greatest potential was. And I was helping them get jobs anywhere. It wasn't just the entertainment industry, it was everywhere. And I realized that I found a lot of joy in that. And something that drives me to continue doing what I'm doing is receiving messages from people saying, thank you, Andria, so much for helping me find that greatest potential. Or thank you, Andria, so much for helping me not commit suicide. Or thank you, Andria, so much for taking the time to help me get a job in the entertainment industry and helping me see that I was worth much more than what I was giving myself. If I can receive a message like that, I know that I did my job. And if I didn't, then I know I need to be better. And I think that in life, we all have to know that we are becoming a better version of ourselves every single day. So don't be afraid of rejection, because rejection is actually one of the best things that you could ever get. I love getting rejected. I seriously say that with so much love, because when I'm rejected, that makes me work even harder. And it makes me see that, yeah, that door may be closed at this present moment, but that doesn't mean that the door won't open again at a later time. It's all in God's timing. So really put that into your life and into practice, that you can create opportunity out of nothing. If I can, so can you. So I'll leave it at that.
Her name is Andria Schultz, ladies and gentlemen. And Andria, how can we connect with you?
Yeah, if you guys are wanting to connect with me, the best way to do so is on my social media handles, as well as my email. So the best email to reach me at would be ACSCHULTZ09@gmail.com. Or you could reach me at Instagram at Andria, ANDRIAC, and then Schultz, SCHULTZ.
Andria, thank you for sharing in an impactful and in a practical and personal way with us today. We have leveled up because of you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Sell Anywhere podcast, where we believe if you can sell anywhere, you can sell everywhere, and your talent is not limited to your zip code. Listen, this is not a one-way street. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you on your ratings. Rate me on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever you listen to us on. That helps me immensely. Do that now, but also reach out. Find us on sellanywhere.com, and you can interact with us there, on LinkedIn, on so many different places. I want to hear from you. What are your struggles? Who do you want on the show? What are things that you feel like I could help you to solve? I love you so much. that I'm doing whatever I can to give value so that I can spend the rest of my life with you. So let me know what I could be doing to help you in your journey.